the sky's the limit. You're young. You can do all kinds of things.
Well, thank you.
As your father, it's my job to encourage you to follow paths even if they're stupid. So I'm encouraging you to follow this stupid path.
Well, I thank you, Father.
Here we are
again for another wonderful episode. Continuation / episode
of Reblogatog. We had some technical difficulties last week. If you watched last week's episode, it ends sort of abruptly. So we're going to attempt to pick up there and finish up last week with this week, and then go into this week because we still had a few.
We had a few more questions,
and so we just didn't get back to it. Yeah. So we're getting back to it.
We're getting back to it.
Thank you for joining us again.
I left off last week talking about this question right here, which I believe I had said I believe he asked even if he denies.
I didn't. I'm not the only squirrel lover that exists in the magic realm. Okay,
Mark, since we're going to Kaldheim and Ratatoskr exist in Norse mythology, can I get a maybe on a black-bordered legendary squirrel? Mark sure gave him a maybe with a smiley face.
With a smiley face, yeah. Man, it is going to be one of the largest missed opportunities ever if they don't do this thing. I might write my first nasty, unhappy message to Mark Rosewater if we don't get that kind of thing.
All right, I'm just making sure here. Has there ever been talk of trying to reduce the number of creature types in the game? As an example, I'm not quite sure why rogue and assassin are separate types. I know that not all rogues are assassins, but surely all assassins are rogues, right? I believe we talked about this last week. We just didn't do it on air, and this guy hasn't played much D&D. Mark Rosewater replies, the game doesn't improve if we cut the number of creature types way down. It just makes it feel less flavorful and harder to create balanced tribal effects.
I didn't say we brought you the best questions or the most intelligent questions every week, just that we brought you some questions. So, yeah, let's cut down on the number of creature types because why?
That doesn't even make sense.
Hey, green is all hydras and white is all angels. And no.
Not the right direction, man. How often do you design a card and realize later it has already been printed before? All the time. Often designed by me.
Many of the designers do that, yes.
Yes. But I can imagine, especially since his career has been so long and prolific, he's probably designed the same card multiple times and went, yeah, that'd be really good. Why haven't I ever thought of that? Oh.
I have 17 times. So
that's why we keep getting the gate. I can't see this asked elsewhere, Mark. But how do you justify the clear pie break that is Charge of the Forever Beast and the bin that is Ram Through? Both of these cards seem to exist simply by mentioning a creature. Simply by mentioning a creature.
Just by mentioning one.
Because that's enough to make it green. Green requires you playing creatures in your deck to function. They literally do nothing in a creatureless deck.
Yeah, they
do nothing.
They won't do anything. If you just put them in your deck and don't play creatures, they are dead.
They are bad.
And even if you have creatures, you can draw them and they're dead.
Yeah. They are.
I've had them in my hand, and they were dead.
Having a Ram Through in your hand that does nothing is a horrible feeling, too. Because that is a card that does things.
Oh, and the other one there, the
Charge of the Forever Beast?
I've had that in my hand, and the creature I had wasn't big enough to kill it. Yeah. So it was like a dead card.
Yep. I think that this... I'm not even hitting that. That was supposed to be connected with stuff we did last week. It looks like it didn't get...
Then why are you even talking about it? Now they're wondering for forever.
Well, they can wonder for forever. There are mysteries in the universe.
We're talking about it.
Hey, Mark.
The more we talk about it, the more they wonder about it.
Hey, Mark. This is actually a good question. Will Magic's frame ever reach the future sight frame? Not in the near future. It went a little too far in how much it pushed the frame. It did. It was really cool. I'm not going to deny it was really cool to see once.
It's pretty cool if you fan your cards out like when you're playing Rummy or something.
Right.
Because the casting costs are right there, you know. But outside of that, it's a little radical.
Yeah. Like I said, it was cool to see once.
Yeah.
That's why I like Future Sight. The cool stuff we saw once. Since permanent spells can now be copied, could you hypothetically put Storm on a permanent? I believe so. Not 100% sure, though. And the part he didn't...
Because he's not the rules manager.
Right. And the part he didn't write here is not sure if we should either. I believe that's the part that's not written.
There's a reason why there's a scale called the Storm scale.
Right. I'm just going to finish these few off here and let you start the next week.
Yep.
Where are the normal DFC cards in the Storm scale right now? And
so that would be the TDFCs.
Yeah, our TDFCs, transforming double face cards, are at a 4. Yeah, seems about right. Is Squirrel still a 9 on the Beeble scale? Nope. It has dropped to a 7.
Beebles being the scale of how likely a creature type is to be in Standard.
Because we're not seeing Beebles again.
Beebles have been relegated to Silver bordered,
yes.
as Squirrels had been, but we did get a white one. And we got Ratatosker coming.
We do.
I'm watching you, Mark Rosenberg.
He's on your side.
He better be.
Hey, Mark. Beyond excited for the future. I am beyond excited for the future of Magic. But now I'm curious. Looking at the roadmap for next year, is the Forgotten Realms D&D set replacing the core set for the year? Yes, it's in the slot the core set normally sets in. Yeah, that's how they made the announcement even.
How does he say that exactly?
It's in the slot the core set normally sits in.
It could be just I'm reading stuff into him because I read him so much. But he says it's in the slot the core set normally sits in. He doesn't say there's not a core set, even though they didn't announce one. Again,
fair.
I could be reading in more, but why does he... It's in the slot the core set normally sits in. He says, is it replacing the core set for the year? And he doesn't go, yes. He could have just said, yes. But he didn't.
He didn't say the word yes. You're correct. He says it's in the...
You heard it here first. When I'm wrong about it, look me up.
Yeah. Dad's predicting like 12 standard sets next year, so we're getting 2 or 3 Innistrad, a hidden core set.
I'm just predicting
6.
6.
Okay, just 6.
That's half a dozen.
That's half. I apologize.
You're gonna really laugh and cry when I'm right.
Where did the decision to not... Where did the decision people can need to learn
to not
English,
have an exclusive
buy a box promo for Zendikar Rising come from? I was getting there. We were listening to feedback from the players, as they do often.
They do.
The mechanically unique buy a box cards upset a lot of people. Yeah.
As an LGS owner, it didn't upset me. Now, that's one less reason for somebody to buy a box from a local game store.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a not a functionally unique. It's got a different treatment to it, full art or whatever extended, you know. But
well, the problem came with them making them be standard playable. Stuff like Firesong, Sunspeaker, Ren and Siri, that kind of casual stuff that is going to be in that short supply. I think it's cool. When Nexus of Fate was the problem, I believe. Nexus of Fate was the issue.
Nexus of Fate wasn't because it was standard playable. It's because Nexus of Fate was a busted card.
Yeah, Nexus of Fate was just a broken, busted card.
I thought they were over that whole thing of making sure that an extra turn exiled itself. Not only did it not exile itself, it was instant speed.
Yeah, as a replacement effect, it was just not the proper way to template that
Hey,
card.
168 hours later, we're wrapping up last week's. Ready to start on this week. So, welcome back to another episode of Reblogatog.
We are here for episode 29.
And ready to roll. So, let's load this thing up. Has putting an entire 10-card rare dual land cycle ever been considered for a standard legal set. The issue is we can only have so many duels in standard, so putting them all in one set means another set goes without. So I guess he's not ruling it out, it's just that it's better to spread them out.
Yeah.
Because they never want to make the mana too good in standard, because then everybody just plays 5-color soup, and I think we mentioned that here in a little bit.
Yeah.
So, can I get a maybe on a modal DFC that is itself a modal card on one or both of its faces? Maybe.
With a smiley face, and the smiley face makes it scare me a little bit. I feel like that's in the pipeline already.
I'm not pulling all the MDFCs out separate. We're just going to sprinkle them in this week. With cards like Tajaru Paragon, what are the odds of a land with all 5 basic land types? And if you're unfamiliar with Tajaru Paragon, it is a green card for green and 1. It's a 3/2 elf, and it's also a cleric, rogue, warrior, and wizard. Kicker 3, when it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, reveal the top 6 cards. You may put a card that shares a creature type with it from among them into your hand. Put the remaining on the bottom in random order. So anyway, they're wanting to know if we can get a land
that has all the 5. That is a plains, mountain, swamp, island, forest.
Yeah. So the problem is finding the right drawback. It could happen, though.
I don't know what the right drawback is on the land everybody wants to play that you can fetch with every,
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
It wants to go in every deck.
It would go in every deck. It would be the auto-include in
Right.
any format that you could play it in.
I feel like any drawback that's enough is also so much to probably make it unplayable.
Yeah. 5 life?
It doesn't untap during your next untap step whenever you use it. I don't, fetch it out, use it once.
Maybe you have to sacrifice another land or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, anyway. What can green not do even with the condition of having creatures? So here's somebody. Usually we get this on blue. Blue just does everything. Now it's on green because green is, all sorts of things. Counter spells. Force discard. Mill an opponent. Steal a creature.
Yeah.
Unsummon an opponent's permanent. Reanimate another creature. Copy an instant or sorcery, etc. I will take note that blue does most of those things.
Yeah. That's why maybe when you put blue and green together in Simic, feels really good.
They kind of do about everything, don't they? So, are MDFCs an uncommon by default card type, or can we expect to see some at common? A tapped land that taps for 1 color is about the simplest back you could have.
Yep.
If that was deemed too much for common, I'm skeptical we'll see MDFCs at common in premier sets. So he's not saying never, but he's skeptical that we're going to see MDFCs. And that maybe crosses the threshold of the New World Order.
Yeah.
By making them a little bit more difficult to grok for new players, since the ASFAN would be larger at the common slot.
At the common slot, yeah.
So we'll talk with some. You guys have been following us for a while. You know some of that lingo.
Right.
Hopefully you kept up with it, But I would say that's part of it. Would it be possible to see Fuse on a modal DFC card? Or do you imagine Fuse being specifically a split card thing?
Yeah.
So if you don't remember, Fuse was a thing we did on split cards.
Yeah, and
where you could pay both the casting cost and combine both effects and get both effects. And they happened in the order that they were listed on the card.
Yeah.
There's no way to represent both sides on the battlefield. In theory, you could do a spell and a permanent, but it's starting to approach adventure, which we now have.
Right.
So why would you do that when you can do adventure?
Right.
They specifically talked about, I think we brought it up last week or the week before, about how the MDFCs were to allow them to do things with permanents that they couldn't do with the split cards.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not going to,
because they're only spells.
We're not going to see a MDFC that's a spell on both sides, or an instant or sorcery on both sides, because that could just be a split card.
Contrary to what we did at my house years ago. Well, not we. I'll say Ivan, and I don't know if he watches this or not. But he made a split card that had permanents on it for a homebrew contest we did. Moving along, why was Suspend disliked anyway? It seems like a super cool, unique mechanic. I can see how stuff like Ancestral Vision, despite being an awesome card, wouldn't be too fun for Timmy. It's a blasting cube at least. It requires a lot of bookkeeping.
Yeah.
You have to exile it with counters and then remember every turn to remove a counter. Not only that, I find with newer players playing Commander that they don't understand that it has haste. If it's a creature, it has haste. You've suspended it. When it comes in,
it's ready to go.
It's ready to roll. You already paid for all your time by suspending it. You're good to roll with that creature right away and do tap, attack, whatever.
It was Suspend is just a... I didn't play with it in Standard or anything. Obviously, Commander, I see it. It is just a weird... I mean, it doesn't appeal to me at all, to be honest. It just, like, it doesn't...
I play with a few of them because I like to mix in stuff and have people see different things.
Right.
I play the wheel in my Nekuzar deck.
I think the coolest thing about them is the look of them as a card with no mana cost. I mean, not even like a 0 up there. Just it's blank up there. I think that's really cool to see on a card that's not a land. Like that's kind of cool, but the mechanic itself and how it works, it didn't grab me as much.
Wait, would the rules actually allow an MDFC that has a split card on one side? He's not sure.
I'm not sure.
We've got a few years before we need to get into that. Let's slow roll that one, all right?
They want, you know what they want? They want that silver bordered card and black border, the one that's it's a split card, then a split card, then a split. You remember that one? I don't remember what it's called. But like
who, what, when, where, why?
Yeah. That's what they're looking for.
Who, what, when, where, why? Yes. If you haven't seen that, look that one up. That's a good one. Hey, Alan, what was it back here? It's been several episodes ago, but you were talking about you had saved it on your phone.
Oh,
where at some point Gavin Verhey or Mark Rosewater had asked us a question. And then now we were seeing the fruition of that. What was that about?
I remember, I think I had two instances, one from each of them, but the one I remember off the top of my head was Gavin came on Reddit and started asking people in the Magic sub what new cards they would like to see in the old border.
New cards in the old border. I knew there was a couple things. So, all right. So along that vein, I present to you a question that was posed this week by Mark Rosewater. Question for all of you. What do you all think of when I say the Mending? Now, newer players are going to go, older and franchise players probably know what the Mending is.
Yeah.
So what I'm wondering is the bigger scope of this. Does this mean that we're going to go back to Alara? Because that's where the Mending happened, was with the shards, right? That's where the Mending happened.
Yeah, it and Dominaria, because it actually is what... Dominaria was the center of all the time rifts, but I don't... But then the trigger... Alara has a lot to do with it, yeah. I know that...
So I'm just wondering if that's an allusion to we might be going back to Alara, or if they're thinking about messing with the Mending in some fashion.
Right. They can't... The Mending had to happen for the fact that they gave us Planeswalker cards...
They took away the godlike ability, made them more relatable.
Right.
Because pre-Mending, Planeswalkers were
gods. They were immortal. You'll hear
could do whatever they wanted, basically.
If you read any story, Nicol Bolas and Liliana, both of them will talk about it. Liliana was an old walker. She's been alive thousands of years, yada yada. She remembers having godlike powers. Bolas, that's what everything about War of the Spark, he wanted that kind of power back again. Etc. So, I don't know. That's curious to see. I don't know.
So anyway, once in a while he'll pose a question like that, so I thought I would specifically point it out and get some discussion going on that. So, I don't know.
Maybe we're going to see some kind of secondary media about the Mending. I know it's been a long time.
Maybe we could have the rendering.
Yeah?
And... just because I know it has to happen somewhere, that could be what rips Nicol Bolas out of the meditation realm?
Not yet.
Well, no, it's going to take time, obviously. Okay? I'm just saying. I'm throwing speculation out there.
No, that's not bad speculation.
All right, so moving on. Chances of a set based around 4-color combinations. Super low.
Super low.
It's an extremely difficult design problem on several levels. And he's talked about this before, but trying to exclude one color from something is very difficult.
Much more difficult, yeah. To try to define something by the colors that it isn't instead of the colors it
We're going to let
is.
you go for a little bit.
Yeah.
Go till you hit the yellow up there.
All right. If you prefer getting feedback from players after they have played with the actual card, do you completely ignore the feedback from players just looking at the cards? Probably should. Does this mean that feedback from players during spoiler season is completely meaningless or less so? Could you kind of go in depth on how you personally judge the usefulness of feedback that is hands-on versus just perception? Because lots of players decided on whether or not to buy a product without hands-on experience with it. Which is
They probably don't buy a lot of that product, though.
Right. Probably not. The people that don't buy it probably weren't going to be buying a lot. But this is a good question. Really kind of getting in depth of what Maro, how he takes his feedback, because he's always asking. All feedback is useful. Perception is good to understand, but it's less important than creating good gameplay. Great-looking cards that end up playing badly will drive more players from the game than cards that look odd at first glance, but are tons of fun to play. And I absolutely believe that. It's just a good answer to that question, really. Here you mentioned this earlier. Stopping 5-color soup seems pretty simple, to be honest.
You remember last week or the week before we were talking about trying to design a card that couldn't die to target removal, but died to Wrath of Godlike
and
effects?
we spent half the episode on it.
Yeah. So here's a thing.
So, stopping 5-color soup seems pretty simple, to be honest. Just give a bunch of cards upsides that you only get if you control for example, green permanents, or lands that produce green, and cost them so that they're not worth playing without the upside. Is there some other mechanical issue? Well, sir, that solution has numerous issues. First, it's not as easy a thing to define as you think. Second, it would be wordy, and it doesn't leave you a lot of room to do other things on the card. Third, it cuts you off from using 5-color mana fixing, which a 4-color set would probably need. You most likely don't have space for a cycle of 4-mana color fixers. Or 4-color mana fixers, I apologize. Fourth, it's mentally hard to process if you have multiple different ones mixed together. Fifth, it's not even that hard to play around. Use artifact mana fixing for multiple for your 5th color and only play spells with it. Sixth, there's only so many cards you can use this restriction on, so what do you do with all the other cards? And seventh, and finally, from a game design standpoint, it's a bit inelegant.
So, all you armchair designers out there, quit it.
Yeah.
Think it through before you send Maro a question, because he will answer it.
He'll answer. He'll give you it's not that simple, guys.
Well, to be honest, it ought to be pretty simple, right? You just do this thing.
No. One of the things that they could have done, I'll say this, is that they could have tried, in Throne of Eldraine, they could have tried to push Adamant even harder, instead of it ended up being a mechanic we forgot about.
I really like Adamant. I hope it has a chance to come back. This is one of the things I've been arguing with for years, that they could push. I'd like to see it in the casting cost.
Right.
If you want to push away from people splashing colors, then you triple color something.
Yeah.
Like the Cavaliers.
Yeah.
Triple colored it hard to splash triple colored.
And you push Adamant further than the 3 mana or whatever. If you paid for this spell with all X colored mana, you get double the effect. I don't know. Something that really makes it worth it to play monocolored.
Yeah, I really like the ability.
Yeah.
I'm afraid it didn't get noticed, but I really liked it.
I know we had a Reblogatog question about it kind of being a forgotten thing, and it's one of those things I feel would have been good at stopping all this 4 or 5 color nonsense if there was real payoffs to being monocolored.
Yep.
If or when Planeswalker abilities with mana cost.
Seems odd.
Big if.
Big if.
The closest I can see is a loyalty ability that grants you an ability, probably an emblem, which lets you spend mana for an effect. That would even be a step towards an interactable emblem. Maybe only on your side, not theirs, but still.
Right. Now, he talks about this in a few that I deleted, but, there's plenty of other things that have mana activations.
Right.
Planeswalkers are meant to be different. So,
loyalty is their
why make
activation.
them the same?
Right. Will we ever get a mechanic that uses placing cards from your graveyard on the bottom of your library as a resource? Like, when X enters the battlefield, gain 2 life, you may place 3 cards from your graveyard on the bottom of your library. If you do, gain 5 life instead. Interesting, I guess. R&D calls it restocking. We've played around with it a little. Maybe one day. I mean, we did see Murderous Rider and Eldraine. When it dies, it goes back to the bottom of your graveyard instead of bottom of your library instead of the graveyard.
We've got a few artifacts that put stuff on the bottom.
Yeah, I played in a Commander game tonight. I played that Mana Rock that when it comes into play, you put something on the bottom as well. There's a few things, and then there's your Grenzo who wants to look at the bottom. Although I like the overall concept of set boosters, I do have to agree with some people. The art cards seem underwhelming. I enjoy them for my commanders, but land cards and others seem useless. Some people enjoy them as collectibles and something to admire the art with, and don't need to have a secondary function.
And then there's people like this.
Just opened a set booster for the first time. I was still excited, but I opened up the pack and saw the gorgeous art set piece staring back at me, and my jaw dropped. I had no idea that the art set even existed. It made my day. Virtual high fives to everyone involved. Virtual high fives to be distributed.
So, all the things that you don't like about Magic, there's probably some people who do like. And Wizards makes the game for as many people as possible.
Right.
And we're going to be talking about that, I think, in a little bit on another one. So keep that in mind.
I absolutely love the art cards because I love Magic art. It's one of the best parts of Magic, I think. They make really cool art. And another thing, as weird as it is, those art cards actually almost seem more collectible than Magic playing cards do now.
They are pretty, I'll say that. They may not be my favorite thing,
right?
But I can allow someone else to enjoy them.
Right.
And it is another thing to collect if you're a collector.
Yeah.
So, all right, so let's do a little bit here.
Let's jump around on a
Do you think milling would be less upsetting to the players it upsets if we milled from the bottom? Maro says, our goal isn't to make it less upsetting. Mill's in a good place.
Yeah. Mill's supposed to tick you off, guys. I'm sorry. I think it's...
So we got a few on milling. Hey, Mark, happy Monday. Could you elaborate on the power differential between 7 and 8 cards in the graveyard with respect to rogues in Zendikar Rising?
Right.
I have a really hard time imagining that the 1 card difference could make that big a difference to power level. Thank you. So this is a milling-related question. My note to play design is please make this 7 if it does not matter. And the because 7 was threshold. And the feedback was it matters. Fine tuning comes from lots of play testing.
Yeah.
Couple more. That one kind of fit in, so I threw it in there. Hey, Maro. From the point of view of a 61-year-old who has been playing Magic since its inception.
Oh, did you write this one?
You know that makes you in your 40s. All right. Mill is a very unfun aspect of the game for me. I would rather concede a game immediately than experience that type of gameplay. I know you're aware of land destruction being a buzzkill mechanic and have done a good job of keeping its cost high.
We just printed a 2 cost one.
But I feel that Mill has just become too cheap and easy to pull off. Not really a question here, but giving you some feedback. Thank you for listening to an old man. Maro says, thanks for the feedback and the years of playing. Mill is beloved by some, but I agree it can't be too easy. I think they probably have gotten to the point just in the last couple sets where it might be just about there.
It's close.
I haven't really took a hard look at it, but we got Ruin Crab, and it makes me want to check on it really hard. Because when we had the original Crab, it was just about viable because there was enough then.
I really kind of want to build the Blue-Black Rogues deck, see if I can mill somebody out.
Now here's really the way I've thought about milling since, well, a long time ago somebody gave me this viewpoint.
Right.
PSA to anyone whose problem with mill is seeing your favorite cards milled. Don't look at them unless you need to use your graveyard for something and pretend they just got put on the bottom of your library. If the issue is the non-interactive nature of the deck, you're basically playing against burn that hits a different life total, so act accordingly.
Wow, that's, yeah.
He says, interesting perspective. I don't really look at it that way, but it's similar.
Yeah, no.
To me, I just look at it like I wasn't going to draw that card anyway. The top of my deck is random.
Right.
Knowing that it was that card, it doesn't change. I didn't get to draw it, so it doesn't matter. It's much the same way as when I lose a game, I don't look at the top card to see if that card was going to be the difference, because it doesn't matter. The game's over.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of play that. Why did Magic become less gritty and more childish throughout the years? Magic didn't become less gritty. It became more things than just gritty.
Yeah.
There are plenty of gritty cards still in the game. The change has come from us trying to expand what Magic can be to give players more options to make the decks they want to build. They're trying to appeal to more people. I just talked about this a couple minutes ago. Right. I knew there was another one in here. They're trying to appeal to more people.
That's a good point and a good way to look at it. It's not that it became less gritty, it just became things other than gritty. That really is a good way to look at it.
There's several comments, and I don't know that I kept any of them in here, about how there's been a lot lighter sets. I mean, this is kind of one of those. I mean, Throne of El...
I'm just looking.
We're done with that side.
Does that start on the other? Oh,
we
yeah,
did this one. We look so professional. Hopefully you're just listening to this. I've heard that you wished Fireball had an easier to grok effect so that you could use it more because of how iconic this spell is. Are there any other card designs you wish were different so you could use them more? There are lots.
Yeah.
Teleport being a useless spell annoys me to no end.
You know how useless it is? I can't tell you what teleport does off the top of my head.
It's horrible.
It's old and it's horrible.
It costs like 3 blue. 3 blue, it's an instant. Target creature becomes unblockable until end of turn. Cast only after attack is declared and before defense is chosen. That's teleport.
The errata, by the way, is cast the spell only during the declare attacker step. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. That is weird.
Oh, the new templating, yeah.
The new templating, though, I don't know if I've ever seen anything that specifies the declare attacker step in the text.
Yep.
That is odd.
So,
and that does suck, because that's a name.
Definitely it should be like a flickering effect of some kind.
Right.
Something really cool, right?
Right, because teleport, I mean, that's a big-time magic spell right there. Ugh. I wish Fireball, I wish we could see it again, too. But I know, unless, I almost wish that they print it like they did in Beatdown or whatever it was with the X and Y. I don't know if
Pay
that would make
X, do Y to Z targets.
I don't know if that would make it easier or worse, but...
Can you high-five the people responsible for making Mill viable and standard? Will do. Yeah, I missed that one.
So the people that were griping about it, there's the people that love it.
Yep. Mark, do you think you could ever do Zendikar without landfall and maintain the lands matter theme? The issue isn't if it's doable, but rather would it make the majority of players happy?
Yeah. Players want landfall.
I mean, if we go to Ravnica, we want guilds, right?
Right.
If we go to Innistrad, we want werewolves,
vampire. We want
transform.
gothic something.
We want transform DFCs, right? So when we go to Zendikar, we want landfall.
Yeah.
We go to Theros, we want gods. I mean, we can say some of these things.
Yeah, and just to be honest, like Evan Irwin, I hear him say multiple times that landfall is possibly the best and most intuitive ability ever printed in Magic. You play a land, you get an effect. Oh my god, it's good. It's good, it's super intuitive,
Nothing beats flying.
Blue-white flyers has been an archetype since Alpha.
Well, people immediately grok that my creature flies.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair.
Really like the gameplay of the MDFC so far. Does the year of them followed closely by Innistrad, which has traditionally had TDFCs, mean you have managed to mitigate some of the logistical issues of DFCs, and that we can hope to see them more often? The logistical issues haven't changed. So the logistical issues are about the print sheets.
Right.
Having to print on two sides. They don't have a magic back.
Right.
And also having two pieces of art.
Right.
So there is more expense in producing it because they have to order more art pieces.
I believe a week or two ago we actually had a question that touched on this as well. Somebody asked if the logistics of it had gotten better, and Maro said, no, they're just worth it. The design space is just worth the extra work.
They're spending, and I don't know what their amounts are, but they're spending money on these things instead of something else they could do, apparently.
Right.
Or because they're making money hand over fist, they've upped their budget.
Right.
That also could be it. Sets could be getting a larger budget. And they're going to make 6 sets next year or whatever. So there's that. I'm surprised no one seems to be mentioning this, but can you talk about Kabira Takedown? Seems like it's a new and fairly needed effect in white. It was clear damage equal to creatures was not useful enough in red, which has better, less dependent direct damage. We're trying it out in white to see if this is a better home, as we like the effect. So Kabira Takedown, if you're not familiar,
right,
is a spell land in Zendikar Rising for a white and 1 instant. It deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature or planeswalker. So it's kind of a direct damage for white.
Yeah.
Except it's not hitting you in the face.
Right. Can't go to the face, but they don't make direct damage. Does it anyway anymore.
That's a story for another day.
It matters about the number of creatures, which is a white thing, but it does feel a little weird in white.
Number of creatures, not white creatures.
Right. It almost feels... The top part of the text kind of feels green, and then it feels red,
Well, white has always had some amount of spells that deal damage to attacking or blocking creatures.
Or tapped creature, yeah.
Something like that.
So I guess dealing damage isn't really that far outside the purview.
So, it's interesting.
It is.
I hadn't really noticed it, I guess, per se, but now...
I like that it also says Planeswalker on it. This is something... I know this card doesn't... I feel like they really need to focus white in being better at taking down Planeswalkers. I feel like it should be the best color in Planeswalker control when they're looking at things to give white. Because they've given white more ways to go, like, tutor Planeswalkers in other colors.
Yeah.
And they have some more kill spells. I just feel like white, that could be a good fit when they're trying to power up white. Those effects that don't have any... haven't even been made yet.
Well, as you were saying, in a couple years, we're all going to be being nasty to White because White's going to be too powerful.
I wouldn't be surprised.
They're ramping it up.
We've griped pretty hard for the last year or so, and last time we did that was Green once upon a time, and well,
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if the same thing happens to White. They're like, oh, people want it to be better. We'll make it better. Oops, that was too much.
Oops, we did it again.
Yeah.
All right, and we're going to wrap it up with one last final here because it's been a while since he really talked about diversity and whatnot.
Right.
But be it known, somebody asked, how involved are you in hiring folks for R&D? Do you participate in interviews? Not very involved unless it's a new designer. I will occasionally sit in on group interviews for other positions in R&D. So it's not really his job to hire and fire. He's just in charge of making cards for us to play.
Well, and being the face of Wizards of the Coast.
He is. He answers questions. I didn't put it on here, but somebody said, "Hey, somebody told me this is a place I could ask questions." Actually, it says hello ? Someone said I could ask questions here. Is that right? And Mark responded, well, you've already asked two, if we include hello ? But yes, you can ask questions. So not only that, but he answers just tons of them.
Well, I mean, not even just with Reblogatog. He is the face of Magic. He is the ambassador to the players. I feel bad for Maro several times because they make him be the ambassador to players a lot of times. When stuff goes wrong, Maro gets the heat. Maro has to try to make the explanation for the company to people. He gets stuck in that position. None of us know who the CEO of Wizards is or something, and he's not coming out saying stuff. It's the head designer, He's not really in charge of much there. He makes Magic cards, and he talks to us.
I would say that it looks to be like the heir apparent to that is Gavin Verhead.
Gavin, yeah.
I'm not saying he's the heir apparent to running R&D necessarily,
but to being the face.
But Good Morning Magic and all his appearances for a lot of things. He's
been on a lot of podcasts.
He's a little younger than Maro.
Yeah.
So he might be the heir apparent to that.
I would imagine he probably is much more already is in the in-person thing, since we already know Maro only travels once a year. I bet Gavin is all around the country. Not right now, but
he's not got too much longer till his his daughter's already off to college. He's got twin sons, I think he is. So I don't know how old they are right now, but he promised his wife he wouldn't travel more than once or twice a year to something.
Right.
And so maybe when they're gone and they can run off, maybe they'll travel more.
Yeah, maybe so. But I just kind of figured Gavin probably filled that role and went to more of the GPs and the this and that, the big things, while Maro stayed home, kind of thing.
Right.
So, but no, it's fantastic. Always reading his questions and his enlightenment on the game and just being a good person.
He is very patient with his answers. I've never really seen him get upset at anybody in his responses. Really. Sometimes I've seen him be curt.
Yes. You can tell that's when he's really angry because
he'll be short.
Yeah, he'll be short with people.
Short, curt, but not. I mean, he's patient
yeah.
and understanding, and tries to say, hey, if you would slow down, make a reasoned response here, tell me what it is that really bothers you, and how let me figure out how I can fix it. Well, we can work with that. But
right.
You can't just go, you suck because you don't know how to design cards. Well, that's not constructive criticism.
Right.
Well, we don't like the way you're doing White because White can't do this thing and this. Well, then you're getting more constructive,
Yeah.
So, anyway, I think that's going to wrap it up for us.
I think that'll be all.
Looks like we made it without any technical difficulties this week.
Woo!
So, until next week, this is us saying au revoir.
Bye, guys.